we're gonna keep walking. The guide starts down the bridge again, and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief, the ease that wants to flood my head. It's not over. The prowler is gone, but so is Bemelay's lantern.
You can stay near me, Bemelay, since your lantern is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margret goes on ahead of us. Bemelay stays by my side as I keep at the end of line. The breath of release for Margret and Bemelay is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinnlos as well, replaced by the gravity of the near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival, something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my eyes.
Why does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The prowlers are on Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pained expression, it's as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though. They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land? It's not right.
Of course it isn't. They're monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly, truly hope that's the last we'll see of the Prowlers.
Doubt it. Something comes to her mind, causing Margret to end part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margret stops and waits for Bemelay and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bemelay loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margret.
Bemelay's surprise is so apparent, I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margret may be surprised with herself, too. Bemelay returns to his usual surety.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kika focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Margret and Bemelay turn to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. We're staying behind. We're the protectors. She can stay in the middle and hopefully be fine. I'm not saying that one can't suddenly grab out and grab someone anywhere, but yeah. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margret following behind us. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting pincered by the enemy would be an almost sure death, no matter how experienced Bemel and I are. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult.
So you're
We're
staying
staying.
behind?
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yep.
Yes, I think we'll be good here.
It's fine. Let's just stick to the status quo. It's fine.
But really, thank you.
It was a kind offer.
That was a very kind offer.
My opinion of you has changed.
Well, alright.
I like you better than Bemelay now. My mouse just turned off. Margret respects our decision and trots ahead a bit to catch back up with the guide. He, who has paid no mind to the entire affair.
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
This kind of accent really bothers me because it's like posh sounding, but it's still American. Do you know what I mean? I never quite knew where to place it or like what to do with it in my head. I know that sounds really weird, but yeah, there it is. Margret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, like light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
I like the way you think.
For some reason she sounds like someone from Cornwall. I don't know why. Then a gleam enters Bemelay's eyes, and he grins.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
Thank you, thank you. He leans softly into my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Bemele shakes a fist at Margret in mock anger, then shoots me an affectionate look. Don't look at me affectionately.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Yeah, bitch. Bemele laughs self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
You're not winning me over, you're just not. I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I'm pleased, almost grateful, to hear what they think of me, but I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. Apart from the guide, he's a bit of a prick. Probably not romanceable either. After some time, I notice Margret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she was before. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, and Bemele and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. We go faster and faster until we're full-on sprinting across the slick wooden boards. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths in the bridge appear to be sinking. I try hard to swallow my rising panic. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't stop, turn. When he takes a masterfully sharp right down a different path using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Margret must not have worked out the warning either, as she is completely caught off guard by the guide's changing course. She runs straight ahead, past the turn, and continues down the path we've been following up until now. She clumsily begins to halt her momentum down the wrong bridge. Then I come upon the fork. Oh no, I'm never— oh my god, my mouse. My mouse died. My mouse died. You hear this? It's not working because my mouse died. Great. I keep straight ahead, not making an attempt to go the correct direction because my mouse died. I'm so sorry. Bemele seems to stumble slightly but stays close behind me, and in the light, I inwardly apologize. I come upon Margret, who nearly runs into me in her efforts to turn around. Her face twists at the sight.
Why are you—
I ignore her and move to face the other way. The path we came from is disappearing into the water. It's sinking.
We have to jump.
What?
I'm worried my mouse is gonna die again. I might need new batteries. Margret holds up her hands, but I grab her and spin her towards the path the guide is on.
Go! We'll catch up.
But—
Bemele and I will have to jump together. He needs the light. Just move.
I practically shove her, and without further hesitation, she takes the leap. She makes it just past the edge of the bridge, knees buckling as she lands, but is soon back up on her feet and holding her lantern out towards me. She beams with pride. I smile back and motion Margret towards the guide. She understands the gesture, though hesitates, obvious conflict in her eyes. However, she nods and runs after him.
Here.
I offer Bemele my hand, tightening my grip on my lantern. Bemele accepts the offer, giving it a brief squeeze. A tight smile plasters itself across my face as I try to calculate the distance between our bridge and the other. Then the ground starts to shake more.
Jump!
We dash to the bridge's edge and leap. Cold air rushes past my face, winding its fingers into my hair. For an instant, I think I see something moving under the surface of the water. Then we land hard on the wooden bridge. I guess that didn't end in our death. Bemele lets out a sigh of relief as we both creakily get fully back on our feet.
Stay close. We need to run.
I'll be right behind you.
I take off, not bothering to ensure Bemele is staying true to his word. I know he'll follow. The guide's fading light bounces in the distance, a clear signal that he's still running. I focus everything I have on catching up. Slowly, we begin to close the distance. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. Even my stamina is being challenged. I can't imagine what this must be like for Margret. She's holding her side as she runs, clearly cramping from the exercise. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Bemelay's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. Oh? There, curled in a little ball, illuminated by the lantern's light, cowers a person. His hands grip his head and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out onto these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
You're a fucking bitch. I snap my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here. We've managed fine enough already, and these creatures will probably pluck him away as soon as we've gone. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I think we're taking him. Sorry to tell you that. I glance at the others. Bemelay is outraged, but Margret is staring at the man with something like fear. She's uneasy, but she doesn't voice her concerns. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges. I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
Kind of a little bitch, huh? Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Margret, Bemelay, and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. None of us have a desire to speak and be the first to make a choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched, with his arms wrapped around himself as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
No, look, the line goes, "Are you well, stranger?" Not what you just did. I'm really not trying to criticize, but that is not how you say that sentence, because it doesn't really sound like she's asking a question, but then she sounds like she's asking a question in the next sentence. It's a bit confusing. Are you well, stranger? He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
His, virtuousness is just kind of irritating. And I don't know why, because, I agree with him, but it's for some reason irritating. I don't know why.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you. But that's not how things always go. Doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is meandering. The words themselves seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hands. Bemelay frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Oh, calm your tits, Bemele.
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You were curled up in a ball when we met.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no. Sounds like you've been talking with my father.
Uh-huh. He lets out a weak little laugh coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bemele huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It could be, if he's trying to get to the side we came from.
He must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore that he started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to this remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over at the man's body, noting the scrawniness of his limbs. Scrawny, but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly, looking at us as if watching a play. Interest, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering?
Yours. Give me your fucking light, you prick.
It's not mine.
Okay.
And you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bemele looks at Margret. She avoids his gaze.
Perhaps I could have let him share my light before. But the guide has said the one with him has to remain behind, and I simply wouldn't be able to manage it.
Bemele's hands turn into fists. He looks away but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You. Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around himself. Margret might not be able to take him, but there's another way this could be solved. I could stay back with him. It'll put Bemele and myself at significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. I'm probably gonna go for this guy, I'm just saying. I like Margret as well, but I'm gonna go for this guy first, because it's interesting that we just suddenly found him. I'm the most interested in his story currently. I'm least interested in Bemele's story. Doesn't seem to have one. Probably does, but yeah. I straighten my arm out like a rod, blocking his progress past me. He stops, perplexed.
I am not afraid to stay behind, as long as Bemele can remain up front with you in your light.
The guide doesn't say anything, doesn't even blink. Margret covers her mouth with her hand, muffling some sort of gasp. Bemele smiles sadly at me.
One can always count on you, Kika.
Thanks. The man, meanwhile, stands with his mouth agape, truly and genuinely shocked.
Well, what will it be?
Margret sputters for a second, searching for words, but clearly unaware of what to say. Bemele chimes in before she can get anything audible out.
I can stay in between you and the guide. I don't need to be right next to either of you. That way you won't have to worry about a repeat of what happened earlier.
I wouldn't refuse you being here.
The guide doesn't acknowledge them. He stares at the stranger. The man shakes under the attention.
No, really. I could just go on my own. It's fine.
I step closer to him, lending the support he seems to desperately need.
You do not need to go this alone. I will protect you.
The man stares at me. I return his gaze, willing him to see my certainty. There need be no blood spilled tonight. Slowly the fear melts off his face, replaced with something like resignation. Then he drops his gaze to the floor.
Okay.
All right.
I grasp his shoulder and turn to the rest of the group.
You should get a head start, correct? You'll have to put some distance between us.
No! No, we don't have to do that!
Yes, we do.
Sorry, the trick guide says so. Unnervingly, there's a hint of emotion in the guide's usually empty voice, anger. He starts to walk, not waiting for a reply. Margret grits her teeth, eyes filling with tears, face flushed. She mumbles something in a small voice, something I'm just near enough to hear.
Why am I always so powerless?
Oh, Margaret, I like you. The statement catches me somewhat off guard. Margaret, powerless? She's not a mercenary to be sure, but she seems so certain of herself. Then again, I don't know the reason she needs to cross this lake. Before I can decide whether I should respond, the tears fade from her eyes. Margaret takes a deep breath.
Please be careful.
Alright. She takes a few steps back, lingering near enough for Bemily. Bemily? Forgotten his fucking name again. Bemily smiles first at the stranger and then at me.
Take care back here, all right? We'll all be together again when we reach the halfway island. It won't be too much longer now.
Fingers crossed, bud.
We'll have a nice little camp out, and you can properly introduce yourself to us. Maybe even tell a real joke or two.
The man emits a nervous little laugh and ducks his head. The prospect must not be enticing to him. With the stranger having pulled himself out of the conversation, Bemile looks seriously at me.
I'm sorry to put you in even more.
Stop.
Bemile shakes his head, still smiling.
I don't begrudge you at all. In fact, I'm glad you did. All I want is for you to remember that goal. Each of us, together, on the island, and then on the other shore, safe. This isn't about what our job is, or where other people need us to be.
I nod in response. Bemile opens his mouth, then closes it. He swallows hard.
You two.
I'm surprised to hear his voice wavering slightly. He swallows again, then continues.
You two should look out for each other.
He takes a few steps back, as if to go, but his eyes don't leave mine.
Watch out for yourself, too. Not just for everyone else.
I will.
Guide's figure disappears with only his lantern to lead the way. Bemile and Margaret are finally forced to leave us behind and catch up with him. I watch them disappear into the fog, an odd feeling in the pit of my stomach. I cannot recall the last time I had difficulty seeing someone leave.
You should go after them.
I start. I almost forgot the man was there, standing right next to me. Now he looks at me with desperate eyes.
You don't need to do this.
What?
I'd rather know you returned to them safe, and that you all had a chance to make it back together. The way they acted. Having to go on without you. No one would feel that way for me. I'm not worth it.
We get to decide that, not you, buddy.
That's not...
I stop, unable to say the last word. Can I claim that he's wrong? This is the one thing he has seemed sure of, and I do not know him. Empty platitudes may be worse than nothing at all. No, just say that he doesn't get to decide that. Like, we can make our own decisions about what someone is worth. You know? I don't know. He smirks at my mumbling reply. I'm caught off guard by the change. With only that, it seems he's in his element.
It's true.
He continues to grin, more so to himself than me.
You lot certainly made a scene, huh? That's nice. Being loved and all.
He clarifies after I must have given an undesired reaction to the statement. I'm so disconnected with myself, I am unsure if surprise appeared on myself or if it was the lack of emotion that put him off.
I don't know exactly what kind of love it is you share, but there has to be a bond in that group of yours.
He laughs and then speaks quietly.
It doesn't matter. I can still try for the other shore. Go.
Bitch, I will stay. My certainty shocks him. I can tell immediately he has returned to his meeker self. The man starts to speak again, but I interrupt.
We should start walking. That should be enough of a head start for them.
He hesitates a moment, but ultimately begins walking at my side. I'm relieved. I can never be quite sure what will come from this one. We move in silence. The man doesn't seem to want to speak anymore, but he keeps glancing at me as if expecting something. Somehow his odd behavior is comforting rather than disconcerting. Perhaps it's because he's more nervous about all this than I am. It's putting me at ease, making me feel more capable. I shouldn't allow myself to get comfortable, however. We're in a more dangerous position than ever. The whispering from the lake, so faint after Bemelé's close call, now surges forth. It grows nigh unbearable, the creatures teeming below the surface. I dare not speculate on what has them so excited.
Have you a name?
The man chuckles dryly.
Barely.
I don't really know what I am to take from that.
This time his laugh is more of a bark, quickly out and swallowed back up. Then he frowns.
Lou. Only 2 letters. So barely.
I see. What are you doing out here without the guide?
Perhaps the question isn't appropriate to ask. After all, only the darkest of circumstances spurs someone to cross Sinnlos. But this situation is very strange. I might even go as far as to say it's suspicious. I know that's not fair, but I can't help it. Years spent anticipating danger have made me wary.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know myself.
What does that mean? Is that some sort of joke too? Or do you genuinely not remember how you arrived where you are?
No, it wasn't a joke. Or, well, there is a point to it all.
Then his voice, already by nature light and airy, drops to a whisper.
But I don't know why I even tried. You'd think that I'd be able to call a spade already, right?
He looks up, noticing my gaze still leveled at him. Then he shrugs.
I'd rather not talk about it.
As what has become the norm, I don't fully understand what he means, but I can at least guess that he's not very happy with himself at present, and like it or not, he won't be sharing his real reasons with me.
What about you? What brings you out on this little adventure?
People. On the other side. People who need my help.
You have someone waiting on you? Then why are you risking yourself on me instead
It's
of
not
worrying about what's going to
someone,
happen to
it's
them?
people. I feel my brows furrow from my speck of alarm. Is that really what he took from this? I survey his face with a flick of my eyes, but there is no mischievous gleam to his look now. He's serious. We hold eye contact for a moment until he yet again stares down at the ground.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. It just fell out somehow. I wasn't thinking.
You're important as well, bud. His stare shoots back up at me, his eyes wide.
Of course I'm going to be there for those counting on me. But you aren't nothing. I won't simply turn my back on you.
He smiles sadly, the kind of smile only someone who has experienced great hardship has, a smile I'm all too familiar with.
I probably have to disagree. Still, that's nice of you to say.
We may not know each other well, but you wanted us to go on without you for our own safety. You even tried to have a sense of humor about it. That counts for something.
About it. My statement is far from grand, yet he becomes distinctly bashful all of a sudden, twitching his legs with each step. He hangs his head and mumbles his next phrase. Sadly, he seems unaccustomed to receiving praise.
That's true. Thank you for staying back with me. It's kind of nice.
No need to thank me.
Oh, right. I can't even show gratitude correctly. Of course.
I go to give him a look, but he's smiling. He looks less pitiful than usual. He almost seems content while crossing Sinnlos. Wow. Why?
It is not funny to make a joke out of thinking that way about yourself.
If you don't want people to say things like that, then you shouldn't reject their thanks. Either I did right by thanking you, or I did wrong.
Fine. You're welcome.
I guess he has a point. This time he lets out a real laugh, though a short one.
I'm glad.
He stretches his arms out in front of him and elongates his stride so he's walking a bit ahead of me. It sits wrong with me. He's relaxed and completely unguarded. He's even fine with distancing himself from the light and all the odd comments he has said so far. Then a thought strikes me. Maybe the reason he's so calm is that he doesn't care what happens to him. My heart plummets into my gut. For a time, there is relative peace in the silence between us. Then Lou sighs heavily.
I never could have seen myself in a situation like this. It seems things really aren't over until they're over.
Did you think it was over?
He doesn't answer immediately. When he does, the reply is accompanied by him grasping himself like he might fall apart if he lets go.
Yeah, I did.
That would have been the normal outcome for his situation. Alone, lightless. I shouldn't have asked. I must have let a frown slip through because Lou smiles a non-smile. He stretches his hand behind his neck and gives a little chuckle.
Something really is wrong with me. Somehow, I feel lighter.
Alright, well, maybe this is good. If he's feeling better than he was, then maybe his view of himself will improve.
I wonder who'll still be left standing when this is truly all over.
What?
Everyone will be.
I say it firmly to end the discussion, but Lou's expression grows grave and unusually sympathetic.
You know that's not possible, don't you? Someone will go. You should focus on making sure it's someone else.
You don't seem to be concerned with self-preservation.
That came out more hostile than I expected. He doesn't mind it.
True, but it's not the same for me.
I still don't know how I'm supposed to interact with a person like him. Making conversation is already not a strength I possess. Regardless, Lou echoing that sentiment was not something I had expected. The whispers from the lake, which had already grown, now speak faster and clearer. The individual words are almost audible. I'd likely be able to make them out if I knew the Nyx language. For a split second, I wish I did. A light in the distance still drifts along in the same manner as it did when we first started walking, which I take to mean the path hasn't turned so far. Hopefully that means we're still on the right path. But the light, it got brighter? It's strong enough that I have to glance away for a second, and the next time I look, the light has grown. The bridge is on fire. I grab Lou's arm without thinking. He's standing there stiff, staring at the glow, eyes dull.
We're going to run.
To hell with the guide's order. If we don't go now, we will never go anywhere again. Lou doesn't respond. I give his arm a small tug, and he appears to come to himself when he nods at me. I make the decision then that I won't let go of his arm. I don't know what will happen to him if I do. We take off, the heat growing with each step. The dankness of the bridge means the fire is spreading slowly, but it makes me question how it began in the first place. There is no end to how wrong this place is. Need to check that it's working. It takes 20 paces before the air around us ripples, then starts folding into itself. Thick smoke pours over us, stinging like scorpions at my eyes. I cover my mouth with my free arm to keep breathing, and soon we're at the fire itself. Bridge lurches beneath us, as if the beams supporting it are starting to give way to the thousands of flying sparks. Lou stumbles and pulls against me for support, but we keep our ground. I start pulling him through the blaze. We don't have time to gather our bearings. Who knows how long we have until the bridge collapses or is devoured by flames. As we push through the smoke, Lou wheezing for breath beside me, figures emerge. Bemele and Margret. Ooh, nice art. I look at the two and the situation around them, baffled. None of the individual pieces make any sense until the reality of it hits me all at once. The guide is gone. Margret paws at the bridge. Her lantern is at her side. It's her glasses she's missing. Bemele is off to the other side, lanternless, with only the flickering embers in the wind to keep him out of the darkness. I want to pretend that they're both fine, that they'll be capable of handling themselves, but I know that's just wishful thinking. Both of them are in danger. No offense, but I know who I'm saving, and I'm super fucking sorry that it's not our bud. I don't know how the Nixie feel about fire, how daring they'll be with it so close by, but I can't assume this is an opportunity they would want to miss. I have to do something, and I have to do it now. Sorry. Without wasting another second, I run to Margaret's side, Lou in tow. I'm the one who put her in danger, and she needs me. I have to be there for her. Margaret's head shoots up, eyes squinting through the smoke. Tears like ribbons gleam down her face, whether they're because of the smoke or panic, I don't know. I'm nearly at her side when a shout goes up from the other end of the bridge. A chunk of the bridge near Bemele has vanished, collapsed into the water, and in its place are Nixie trying to crawl their way up. Bemele is backing away from them, but that's only pushing them closer to the other edge. I check on Margret again. She's on her feet and heading over to me, but she's standing now, and she has her lantern to keep those monsters at bay. I leave her running to get my light to Bemele. Bemele stopped in the perfect center of the bridge. Unable now to move forward or back, instead he turns to face me, face pained in a way I've never seen from him. All he can do is wait for me to come and hope it's soon enough. But as I approach, so does a Nyx larger than I knew they could be. It pulls itself halfway out of the water, reaching for Bemele. And it grabs him. It latches its arms around his torso. Bemele lets out an agonized scream, the Nyx's claws anchoring into his flesh, and the creature lets itself fall into the lake, using its body weight to take Bemele with it. I run faster, reaching my lantern out to him. Bemele doesn't reach back. He just looks at me.
Don't!
He falls backward into the lake. The Nyx's weight too much for him to resist. After a moment, the water stills. There's no sign of him. I stop, panting, still feet away from where Bemele fell. Tears burn my eyes.
No, he can't be gone.
I just got an achievement called Inevitability. It is inevitable that someone will die. There's literally no way you can save them. Something tugs on my arm. I panic, but it's Margret. I gape at her. I can barely keep myself together.
What happened to the guide? Is he also?
My voice cracks in spite of myself. I don't know that I want to hear the answer, but it has to be said.
No, I don't think so. I couldn't see through the smoke and without my glasses, but I didn't hear anything.
How did this happen?
While we were running through the fire, the bridge shook. It knocked my glasses off. I bent down to pick them up. There were footsteps. Someone kept going and
Someone
Bemele
kept
asked
going.
if I was all right.
If Bemele asked if you were alright, clearly the guide just fucked off. The tears return to her and she wipes her nose on her sleeve.
He said he'd stay to keep watch while I couldn't see.
That sounds like Bemele.
I'm so sorry.
I don't say anything in response. I can't. The bridge trembles again and I gather my wits just enough to get through this.
We need to leave. Which way did the guide go?
It sounded like he just went forward, and then I couldn't hear him anymore.
That will work. Lou?
I look around for him, realizing he's not with me any longer. At some point, I let go of his arm. Oh, my cat just sneezed. He's standing to the side, gaze glazed, transfixed on the darkness. He seems completely unaware of everything that's happened. The fire, the Nixie, the death. I step forward and yank him back to my side.
What are you doing?
He flinches at the unexpected contact and looks attentively at me, but he doesn't offer an explanation.
I'm sorry.
That is all he ever says. I let go of him.
Both of you stay close. We are not going to separate again.
We keep down the path, the flames still gradually gnawing on the planks behind us. The guide doesn't turn up, nor do any signs of him, but we push on. We will not stop moving. Then we do. The bridge comes to a dead end of rotted out boards collapsed into the lake. For a moment our breathing stops all at once. If this was the way that led to the island, then... I flip back to face the others, my expression unaffected. I'm not going to allow panic to sap this group of judgment.
Let's look for another bridge.
I resolutely begin retracing our path. The others follow without protest. Our regression is silent except for our footfalls and the snapping of soggy wood attempting to burn. We frequently have to step over smouldering sections trying to come alight. At one point, we even have to walk one at a time, sideways, to avoid a wildly flickering small fire billowing out black smoke. Just as my spirit is beginning to dim, we come across different directions to take. Among all the forks, there are only two that aren't collapsed or are too consumed by fire to risk following.
We're lost.
Her voice is scarcely more than a whisper. I barely make it out over the sound of crackling flames and splintering wood. Lou's gaze is flickering down either path. There's a palpable sense of anxiety coming from him.
I don't know. I don't know which way.
It's all right.
But it's not alright. We have to do something to go off of. We have to have something to go off of, anything at all. A cold sweat trickles its way down my back. Before anyone tries to randomly choose, a noise catches my attention. I hastily address the
Did
two.
you hear that?
It sounded like a whistle.
It came from the right.
Lou and I trade looks. This could be the signal we need, but what if it isn't?
Do those monsters know how to whistle?
I would assume not, but...
We should go right, I think. To where the sound came from.
I'm a little surprised Lou is offering his own opinion. It is good to hear, however. I take a deep
I
breath.
agree. There's more of a chance the whistle was a sign for good over ill.
I'm just trying to get to a good stopping point. Our course decided, we move as one down the right path, no longer hesitating. As we follow the bridge down, there is no sign of the end. There's no need to debate between directions again. We start to outpace the fire, one danger thankfully fading away, but the night continues to lighten regardless. I glance at the sky and realize what's happening. The sun is rising. The bridges will sink into the water as the darkness disappears and take us with them. We'll be lost. Why do the bridges sink in the daytime? It suddenly seems pointless. We don't even know whether we've gone the right way, and we still haven't caught up to the guide. We can't outswim the Nixie, and we can't outrun the dawn. We're going to run out of time. Yet we keep moving forward. And finally, our perseverance is rewarded. The silhouette of an island rises in the distance. The island grows rapidly larger, and soon the scents of earth and trees reach us. In spite of all the horrors of this night, a dock emerges from the fog before us, welcoming us to safety. We reach the shore, and that is where I'm stopping. I will see you in the next video. Bye.